The New York Knicks are dealing with a narrative shift that few expected this early in the season. Jalen Brunson, who entered the 2025-26 campaign positioned as one of the NBA's premier MVP candidates, has now fallen entirely out of the league's latest MVP ladder. For a player who has steadily elevated his game year after year, and who was featured prominently on NBA.com's preseason watch list, his absence stands out, raising questions across the league and leaving Knicks fans searching for answers. Brunson's omission comes at a time when expectations for both him and the Knicks were unusually high. New York opened the year with strong defensive showings, improved roster depth, and a renewed sense of urgency after last season's playoff run. Brunson was at the core of that optimism. His leadership, his late-game control, and his increasingly dominant scoring presence had placed him among the players most likely to challenge for MVP consideration. Yet, the newest Kia MVP ladder has shifted that conversation entirely. The updated rankings spotlight the 10 players who at this stage of the season have defined the award race. Nikola Jokic, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Cade Cunningham, Victor Wembanyama, Jalen Johnson, Tyrese Maxey, Alperen Sengun, and Donovan Mitchell. It is a group filled with heavyweights, established MVPs, rising stars, and emerging franchise leaders. But Brunson's complete absence from the list, and from all weekly updates so far, signals a noticeable change in how the league is viewing his season. Jokic and Gilgeous-Alexander continue to dominate the top of the ladder with their typically efficient, high-impact performances. Between Jokic's unmatched versatility and SGA's relentless scoring and defensive presence, both have maintained a firm grip on the conversation. Behind them, players like Cunningham and Wembanyama have surged, leading competitive teams while posting numbers that reflect their growing importance. This crowding at the top has created a challenging environment for any player who experiences even a brief setback, and that brings the spotlight directly back to Brunson. The first factor affecting Brunson's fall is undeniably his mid-November grade 1 ankle sprain. The injury sidelined him for a week, not a long absence by any means, but a costly one in terms of timing. The MVP race is shaped heavily by consistency, narrative momentum, and early season impressions. Missing games while contenders pile up standout performances can quickly alter the landscape. Voters, analysts, and league observers often use the opening portion of the season to establish their baseline expectations. Brunson's brief interruption weakened his early impact and allowed others to take advantage of the shifting window. The second factor is the unprecedented competitiveness of this year's field. Wembanyama has taken a substantial leap, with his two-way dominance pushing San Antonio into relevance. Cunningham has become the anchor of Detroit's resurgence. Maxey and Sengun have emerged as stars capable of carrying playoff-caliber teams. And with Doncic, Giannis, and Mitchell continuing to post elite-level numbers, the league's MVP ecosystem is simply more crowded than in previous years. This combination, a short injury absence paired with one of the most competitive early-season fields in recent memory, has pushed Brunson out of the rankings. But it's important to note that his play hasn't regressed. His scoring efficiency, command of the offense, and ability to control the Knicks' tempo remains central to New York's identity. What has changed is the visibility of his performances at a time when every MVP candidate is fighting for attention. Still, the path back into the MVP race remains open. Brunson has already shown he can climb into the top 10. He appeared at number 10 on an earlier list this year. His formula for returning is straightforward: stay healthy, maintain his offensive production, and continue guiding the Knicks through the challenging stretches of the season. New York's success is often tied directly to Brunson's rhythm. When he's aggressive, decisive, and fully in control, the Knicks look like a legitimate playoff threat. For voters, narrative matters. And Brunson's story, a leader pushing through injury, carrying one of the NBA's most demanding markets, and trying to elevate a roster with evolving chemistry, can easily regain traction if New York rebounds and strengthens its position in the standings. The Knicks offense relies heavily on Brunson's ability to create scoring opportunities in tight moments, and his track record in clutch situations speaks for itself. As the season progresses, the Knicks' fortunes will likely determine whether Brunson can re-enter the spotlight. If he leads New York to a strong mid-season surge, the MVP conversation will shift again. For now, his absence from the top 10 is a notable storyline, but far from a final verdict. With health, consistency, and a renewed push, Brunson still has the tools and the platform to climb back into the heart of the MVP race as the Knicks chase a deeper postseason run. And while Brunson fights to reclaim his place in the MVP conversation, the Knicks front office faces another equally complex dilemma: the future of Mitchell Robinson. A proposed deal involving Dallas Mavericks big man Daniel Gafford has begun to circulate, offering what many see as a potential solution to the franchise's most complicated roster question. Mitchell Robinson's value inside Madison Square Garden is undeniable. He's a foundational defensive presence, a disruptive shot blocker, and one of the league's most relentless offensive rebounders. His teammates praise him, his coaches trust him, and fans have embraced him as one of the heartbeats of the roster. But attachment does not erase reality. Robinson is playing out the final year of his contract, and the Knicks cap sheet is already stretched to its limits. Complicating all of it is his deeply concerning injury history, one that has repeatedly kept him off the floor during critical stretches. New York's financial picture offers no wiggle room. The organization is locked into more than $191 million in guaranteed salary for OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Karl Anthony Towns for the 2026-27 season. Add Gershon Yabusalay's player option, the guaranteed money for Miles McBride, Pacome Diadet, and Tyler Kolek, and the Knicks surpassed the $200 million threshold before even entering negotiations with Robinson. For a franchise aiming to compete for a championship, that's a dangerous place to stand, especially when one of its core rotation players has struggled to stay healthy, and this is where Daniel Gafford enters the picture. Matt Moore of Fansided reports that the Mavericks consider Gafford their most likely trade candidate, largely because Dallas views Derek Lively as its long-term starting center. Gafford's run with the Mavericks in early 2024 was impressive enough to draw comparisons to Rudy Gobert. For roughly 3 months, he anchored the rim, erased drives, and played some of the most efficient basketball of his career. Moore writes, Daniel Gafford is the most likely trade candidate. The Mavericks have Derek Lively as their future big. Gafford had a great 3-month run with the Mavericks in 2024, where he looked like Rudy Gobert in terms of rim protection and has settled back into being Daniel Gafford. For the Knicks, that description checks every box. Gafford is younger, explosive, and proven. He fills the same archetype as Robinson: rim protector, lob threat, offensive rebounder, but with a far steadier health record. A trade would likely require Robinson, Yabusele, and potentially Kolek, plus a draft asset for salary purposes, but the exchange would also give New York something it desperately lacks: security. Robinson's availability has plummeted in recent years. He missed 23 games in 2022-23, 51 in 2023-24, and a staggering 65 last season. This year, he has already sat out 6 of New York's first 14 games. These aren't minor setbacks, they are trends. Trends that jeopardize the Knicks' chances of fielding a reliable playoff rotation. Gafford, meanwhile, has logged at least 72 games in every season from 2021-22 through 2023-24, and played 57 last year. Not perfect durability, but significantly more stable. More importantly for New York, Gafford is under contract for 3 years at just over $54 million total, a manageable deal for a player who can anchor a defense and doesn't require touches to affect a game. His production supports the fit. Per 36 minutes, Gafford averages 16.8 points, 10.2 rebounds, nearly 4 offensive boards, close to 3 blocks, and just under 1 steal. He runs the floor, finishes lobs, and protects the rim at a level that fits seamlessly with the Knicks' defensive principles. And unlike Robinson, Gafford brings postseason credibility. He started 22 playoff games during the Mavericks' run to the 2024 NBA Finals, proving he can handle the intensity, speed, and pressure of deep postseason basketball. No trade offers a perfect replica, but Gafford's skill set aligns with everything Mike Brown's system has historically required from its centers. His agility allows him to defend the pick and roll without exposing the back line. His vertical spacing forces defenses to collapse. And his ability to stay on the floor consistently may be the single biggest factor the Knicks need at this stage of their competitive timeline. A Robinson trade would undoubtedly sting. He has been part of the franchise's identity for years, and moving on from him would be an emotional blow for fans and teammates alike. But the Knicks cannot afford sentimentality if it jeopardizes their championship ambitions. A deal for Gafford could stabilize their long-term payroll, reinforce their interior defense, and secure a starting caliber center for the next 3 seasons. In a league where availability matters as much as talent, this potential move represents a crossroads moment. For the Knicks, the decision may ultimately come down to balancing loyalty with practicality, and determining whether Mitchell Robinson's future still aligns with their own. But Robinson isn't the only name stirring the trade market involving the Knicks. As the franchise weighs its options in the paint, a rising trade buzz surrounding LaMelo Ball has put New York on heightened alert, adding yet another layer of intrigue to a season already filled with crucial decisions. What began as a routine stretch of regular season struggles in Charlotte has quickly evolved into a league-shifting development that could reshape the NBA's trade landscape. According to Yahoo Sports reporter Kelly Iko, Charlotte Hornets star LaMelo Ball is open to a potential trade, a revelation that sent shockwaves across front offices. Ball's disappointment with the Hornets' rough 4-11 start appears to be a major factor, and his openness has immediately triggered speculation about which teams could realistically pursue him. For the New York Knicks, the news lands at a delicate moment, a time when the franchise is striving to chase a championship while maintaining roster stability, chemistry, and long-term planning. Now the entire league wants to know, could LaMelo Ball truly make his way to New York? Ball's appeal is obvious. At 24 years old, he has already elevated himself into one of the NBA's most creative and unpredictable playmakers. He's averaging more than 21 points per game and delivering 9.6 assists with ease, operating with the kind of flair and composure that few guards can replicate. His timing, his feel for the floor, and his willingness to take risks make him a rare offensive engine. Insert him next to Jalen Brunson, a steady, methodical scorer with elite control, and the Knicks instantly transform into one of the league's most potent backcourt threats. Beyond the numbers, Ball's presence would give the Knicks something they've lacked for years: a second facilitator who can run an offense, change pace, and consistently create shots for others. It would free Brunson from the burden of having to generate every look on the floor, especially in tight games or playoff situations. And in a lineup already anchored by Brunson, Karl-Anthony Towns, and Mikal Bridges, Ball's addition would inject youth, creativity, and a different dimension of unpredictability. It would be a high-octane combination capable of stretching defenses to their breaking point. But as enticing as Ball might be, the path to acquiring him is lined with obstacles. His contract, worth $37.9 million this season and surpassing $160 million through 2028 to 29, creates one of the biggest hurdles for New York. The Knicks are already well into the luxury tax due to their commitments to Towns and Brunson. Adding Ball's salary would force the franchise to offload multiple contracts, and any combination the Knicks build would almost certainly involve players who currently play meaningful roles in the rotation. Beyond the salary cap challenge, the Hornets' asking price would be steep. Charlotte is unlikely to entertain discussions without a sizable return consisting of first-round picks and young talent. But the Knicks no longer possess a large surplus of first-round assets. Many of their future picks have already been moved or are tied up in protections that limit their trade flexibility. This immediately shifts power toward other teams. The Clippers have veteran salaries to match. The Rockets have a trove of picks. The Mavericks have flexibility and young pieces that fit Charlotte's timeline. All of these franchises can craft a stronger offer with less sacrifice. The Knicks, meanwhile, would have to make hard decisions, ones that could threaten the team's identity and momentum. If New York chooses to enter the LaMelo sweepstakes, the cost would be significant. It would require sending out key players, multiple young assets, or both, and that introduces a risk that cannot be ignored. The Knicks are not a rebuilding team. They aren't searching for a franchise player to reset their trajectory. They already have one of the league's strongest cores, built around continuity and chemistry. Disrupting that foundation for a superstar-level gamble is the kind of move that can either elevate a franchise or derail one at the worst possible time. LaMelo Ball is electrifying. The Knicks' current roster is one of the most balanced groups the franchise has built in years. Adding depth, strengthening the bench, and keeping the group intact may prove more valuable than forcing a blockbuster that strains finances and fractures chemistry. A developing trade market rarely comes without noise, and Ball's openness adds a fresh, dramatic layer to this NBA season. But for the Knicks, excitement cannot overshadow reality. The fit is fascinating, the upside is undeniable, and the intrigue will certainly continue. Yet the financial hurdles, the asset limitations, and the potential internal cost loom too large to ignore. In moments like this, the smartest franchise is often the one that resists the temptation of a splashy headline. For now, Knicks fans can follow this unfolding saga with anticipation, but with a grounded understanding of what it would truly take to bring one of the most gifted young creators in the league to New York. Sometimes the biggest move is choosing stability over spectacle.